research, she has brought her expertise to Emteq, a UK-based company that combines XR, digital feedback, machine learning to help tackle healthcare issues. The session is entitled Smile to Continue, using biofeedback and VR experience for facial rehabilitation and more. Take it away, Claire.
Thanks for the introduction and thanks for coming to this session. My name is Claire. I'm the project manager for Emteq, and I will be talking about the use of biofeedback and VR for facial rehabilitation, but also for user experience. In the first part of the talk, I'm going to be presenting the technology we are working on and we are developing at Emteq. In the second part, I will show you how we are using this technology for people with facial palsy. And finally, I will show you how we work with content creators or other therapists or other researchers for more application of our technology. So this is the core Emteq team, which comprises software engineers, machine learning experts, electronic engineers, and scientists. And we are developing hardware that can allow content creators to develop VR therapies or VR experience with actionable feedback for the users. So we are developing VR headsets and AR glasses, and we are incorporating some sensors to measure biometrics. So all the data that we capture is given back to the users and is accessible to content creators and researchers to do more research on the data we collect. Biometrics is all the metrics all the measures that we can take from the human body. In terms of user of VR experience and AR, what we are interested in is facial expressions and heart rate. And that's in addition to any eye tracking or head movement that is implemented in some headset already. So we integrate EMG sensors which measure muscle activation of the face, and we integrated a PPG sensor which measures heart rate. When we have data about facial expression and heart rate, we've got a great insight of user experience, of their emotional state, and how they engage with the experience. So how much attention they pay to the experience and how they respond to the experience. So for example, someone who has a really high heart rate and has some activation in the muscle, the cheek muscle or eye muscle, will more likely be having a good experience. Someone who has a high heart rate, but we can see that they are frowning, might mean that they are experiencing some frustration or some stress. So the data we collect is processed and then is sent to the different users. So a scientist can be looking at the data and try to see, or a therapist can look at the data and see if the intervention that they design is effective. A content creator can look at the data and try to find if there is any flaw in their experience. And the user can learn to control and monitor this kind of measures to sometimes improve their health or just improve their performance. So we are developing headsets that measure facial expression and heart rate. And now I want to show you how we are using that to help people with facial palsy. So people with facial palsy have half of the face paralyzed. They cannot really feel their face and they cannot really move half of their face. There are about 7,000 cases each day. 70% of the people will fully recover from the facial palsy, but 30% will not recover fully. They will have to do some facial rehabilitation. After a few months, they might start developing some involuntary movement in their face. So for example, if they smile, one of their eyes might close or their brow might raise. They will mostly feel some pain and some tightness in their face. And they will have to do some daily practice, which consists of massaging, stretching the face, also doing some exercises, and they will have to do that daily. So we've been talking to many people with facial palsy to try to understand their need, their motivation, their goals. And some people know what happened to them. They had brain injuries or an accident, the nerve was damaged. And that's what caused their facial palsy. But some others just woke up one morning with half of the face paralyzed, and they don't really know what happened to them. Some people got the chance to see a GP really early on, to be referred to therapists and to get some treatments. But some others, after a few months, still haven't seen anyone, and they really don't know how to practice. Facial expression is a huge part of communication. So when you can't trust your face, when you don't understand how your face works, it can have a big impact on your social interaction and social life. People with facial palsy have different goals. Some would like to reduce the involuntary movement in their face, so they try to control what we call synkinesis. Some others would like to reduce the pain or to release some tension. And some would like to improve the symmetry in their face, and they try to recover a smile that they can rely on. To achieve their goals, they need to understand how their face works. So because they can't feel or see any movements, they don't really know what's happening when they do some expressions. They need to have some information on what practice they can do, what kind of exercises they can do, and they need to have some feedback on how well they are doing the exercises to make sure that they are not just making things worse. To keep some motivation, they need to see some improvement and some progress, and they need support from therapists. Improvement can be really quick during the first few weeks or the first few months, but after a while, it's going to start to plateau, and the progress might become invisible to the naked eye. Because they can't really feel or see movements, they have to practice in front of the mirror. So it means that the practice generates some physiological pain, but also some emotional pain. It's a constant reminder of what happened to them. And all these blockers means that it makes it difficult to fit a daily routine in their life. So people with facial palsy have to practice every day if they don't want the condition and symptoms to get worse. Most of them are motivated to practice because they want to do everything they do to improve their symptoms, and they want to positively influence their recovery. So once we've spoken to people with facial palsy and understood their needs, their motivations, their challenges, and their goal, we designed 4 different VR experiences to try to help them with different aspects of the therapy. So one is called the muscle identification, and it's to help them understand what's happening with their face. Another one is general relaxation, to try to release tension and reduce the pain. Another one is focused relaxation. In this one, they are trying to unlink some muscles and to make sure that they regain control over muscle activation. And we also provide them with a dashboard. We show them measure and muscle activation over time to try to encourage them to keep practicing every day. All the scene I'm going to show you are early stage, and they are more mechanic prototypes to try to check that the data we collect are good quality and that they function properly. So before showing you the scene, I want to show you how we measure facial expressions. Facial expression starts with a stimuli, so it can be visual, auditory, and the brain sends a signal to the muscle via the facial nerve. The muscle contracts. After the contraction, well, the contraction makes the skin deformed, and that creates a facial expression. So on a picture, you can see facial expression, and all you can see facial expression, but with EMG sensors, we can see muscle contraction. So we can see what happens just before the facial expression. And that's what we are interested in with our technology and for people with facial palsy. So it's important to see what happens before the expression, because if you look at this picture of this woman, you could be thinking that the muscle above her lip is weak, when actually it's the muscle below the lip that is activating, and it's pulling the face down. So if you don't understand the muscle contraction here, you might ask this person to try to work on the upper muscle and try to activate it, when in fact, what she needs to do is learn to release tension in the lower part of her face. Before starting practicing, we ask the users a few questions, such as how much time they have for the practice that day. Are they interested in working in different areas of their face? Would they prefer some relaxation exercises or some practice? And then we take this information and we add our expertise, well, the therapist expertise, and we create a session for them, a personalized session for this day. So the next slide is a video of the muscle identification. In this is really to try to help people understand how their face work. There's nothing specific to do. They can just play with their face, do different expressions, and see muscle activation. Each dot on the face is linked to one sensor on the headset and is showing the level of activation of different muscles on the face. So they can try to smile and see if there is any asymmetry in the smile, if there is muscle that activate in one side and not in the other, or if there is any muscle that activate when they should not activate. So really trying to understand what they cannot see or feel anymore. The next slide is a video of the general relaxation. So before doing some exercises, it's recommended that people try to release some tension. So we give them again level of activation of different muscles of the face, and we ask them to try to lower the activation. So we give them a goal to try to reach. So there is a yellow line on the cylinder. This is a baseline. And we ask them to try to remain below this baseline for as long as they can. So as soon as there is some activation, you can see the level of the blue liquid going up. And when they release tension, the level of the liquid goes down. The next slide is some focused relaxation exercises. So as I said earlier, some people with facial palsy, when they smile, one of another muscle contracts. So for example, their eye closes and they cannot control the movement of their eye. So with this kind of exercise, we ask them to do a really tiny expression, so a tiny smile. And as soon as we see some co-contraction of the eye muscle, we give them some visual feedback and we ask them to stop smiling. And then we give them some personalized tips on how to try to smile without contracting their muscle. And we ask them to try again, trying with smaller expression. And we give them all the measures that we take on their face. So the next slide is the dashboard that we give to our users. So they can have some detailed information about level of activation of each muscle over time. They can share this information with therapists. We also encourage them to create some weekly practice goals, and then the dashboard can give them information on how they are performing against this goal. And this is really to show them the progress that they might not be able to see in the mirror anymore. In the case of classic facial palsy therapy, the patient would see his therapist maybe twice or 3 times a year. He would be given a series of exercises to perform at home and would have to rely on the fact that he understood the exercises during this one therapy session. And he would self-report improvement. With Emteq VR, there is a continuous contact with therapists. They've got personalized exercises and they've got real-time feedback, which allows them to know if they're doing the exercise properly. And if they don't, they've got tips on how to do it better. And then with the dashboard, they've got objective measures of level of activation in their muscle, of level of symmetry that they can't get without the EMG sensors. So we are developing hardware that measures facial expression and heart rate. We can use that to help people with facial palsy, but there are other potential for the use of the Emteq VR technology. And we are partnering with therapists, with content creators, with scientists all the time to try to come up with new use of the technology. In health and well-being, we could be helping people with pain, autism, PTSD, depression, or stroke. That's just a few of them. So once again, the idea is to measure some symptoms, to try to monitor and stratify the symptoms. If we got better stratification for this disease, we can start creating therapies that are more tailored to people's need and more personalized. And still the idea is to monitor some symptoms, to get the data and metrics, to try to monitor them over time and to control them better. We can also use Emteq technology for every other VR experience. So every designer should be interested in user experience. If you are creating a VR game or a training or some education application, you might want to know how engaged your user is. So facial expression and heart rate can give you an idea of user experience, how the user is feeling, how is responding to your experience. This is an example of a dashboard that we can create for content creators or for therapists or researchers. And this dashboard helps answer a few questions. So one of the questions is the actual experience matching the desired experience? If you design an experience and want it to trigger some emotions, are these emotions triggered? Are they triggered at the right time? How can we show you that they are triggered? And if you are designing a therapy, we can help you find out if your intervention is effective, and we can try to help you find out how we can improve the intervention to make it more effective. So a few takeaways for this talk. We cannot manage one, we cannot measure. Emteq can be used for VR therapy, but also for different VR experience when we try to improve user experience. If you have a project you are working on and you are interested in using biofeedback in your VR application, just don't hesitate to email us at info@emteq.net, and I will be available for questions. Thank you very much.
Claire, thank you for that presentation.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm very well. It's a great way to close out the day, to get some smiles on people's faces. Is there a typical time for patients to experience some improvements?
A typical time, what do you mean? Like
a week, a month?
How long it takes?
Yeah.
So we are currently running some tests with people with facial palsy. So that's what we are trying to find out right now. We believe that after 7 days, they can improve their relaxation level in general. And then we will be working on the symmetry, how fast they can improve the symmetry. But right now, we are measuring the general level of relaxation. And we are running tests from next week to the end of July, just to refine these numbers.
Great. The headset looked like it stopped at the standard headset area. Do you lose anything by not capturing the mouth, chin, the lower portion of the face?
So we don't measure like activation in the chin or neck, but in the future we are thinking of having some electrodes, some additional electrodes that we could just stick on the neck or chin, just again to add some additional measure. But right now we measure cheeks, eye, frowns, and brows, and corrugator as well, the frown.
Right.
But yes, we could add different electrodes linked to the headset later.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a great point you made about the use beyond healthcare. Obviously, healthcare being the primary use case, but all kinds of user experience feedback just naturally in your experiences. Can you tell us more about your transition from the gaming industry into healthcare? What sparked that transition?
So I started moving towards games for health. I don't know if you've heard about citizen science before. It's like a project that involves the public in research. And I got interested in that 5 years ago. And I slowly moved to the citizen science games and then games for health. So I saw a few games for rehabilitation. And that's giving having a game that I can have an impact on people. That's something that really interested me. And the use now of technology as well to help people recover faster or better is really interesting. I think games can make some painful recovery more engaging and a little bit, the engagement is an important part of it. If you can't practice every day, your recovery will be, like in facial palsy, you have to practice every day. So if we can give users a bit of a better experience, then it's great. So games are a good way to help them with their recovery.
All right. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.
For everyone else, thank you for sticking with us till the end of the program. It's been a very exciting day, and I thought that was a great way to close out the healthcare track, AWE in general, the speaker sessions for AWE. A couple of final reminders. All of our sessions will be available on demand. So if you've missed anything or you want to review something, please come back into the AWE online site and get all that rich content. I would personally like to thank all of the AWE staff members behind the scenes who have kept the conference moving and quickly turned on a dime and turned this from a live event to an online event. Lots of lessons learned, and hopefully we will all be together live and in person next year. As a final reminder, there still is a VR session that is available. And as a final thank you to our titanium sponsors, HP, Microsoft, Qualcomm, and Unity Technologies. And thank you to our gold sponsor, PlugXR. I'd like to say goodnight, everyone, and see you next year, hopefully in person.